Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Wendy J. Haney, and today I'm going to cover with you how to make this 6-inch log cabin. And that we're going to make it using the 6-inch log cabin trim tool. It's by Creative Grids and it is very handy, but it's not intuitive. So I'm doing this video. There is another video out there that is about using the log cabin trim tool 2, which is for a 12-inch block. I'll include a link to that video below. And in there, I have a template that shows you, hey, these are the size strips you need to cut to make this. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Oh, sorry, we had a fly go by. So we have the same thing in this one. I'm going to give you a template that shows you the size of fabric to cut ahead of time instead of just doing willy-nilly, kind of like the template or the pattern shows, necessary to make this 6-inch block. So let's get started. Okay, so what we need is a certain width strip. The ruler states at a minimum you need a 1.5-inch strip. That will work. Anything smaller than that and it will not work. I did one and it was almost perfect, but not quite. So I'm thinking you might want to go to a 1.75-inch strip. Now, with that said, if you watched my video on the one to use the 12-inch ruler, I said, oh, I don't want to deal with 1/4 inches. Well, in this case, I don't think there's any need to go all the way up to a let's see, it would be a 2-inch strip, but you could. But if you do that, all of the measurements that I'm giving you here are going to be off. So we're going with 1.25-inch strip width. And then for the length of the strips, basically we're working with 3 sets. And I'm doing, my light is my red and my dark is my black. And then a green center. Not sure how I'm gonna like that, but it's the fabric I had. You could cut these strips exactly to the length you need. And in the description below, there's a link where you can get a PDF that shows you the exact length to cut your strips based on a 1.75-inch width. Now, basically click on the link, enter your email. You're gonna get an email that says, hey, we wanna make sure you're real. Please confirm we got the right email address. Then it's gonna send you another email with the PDF. So that's how that works. So in the instructions for the Creative Grids ruler, basically it kind of says, pick out a random length of your fabric and put your center in there and then put that there and then slap this on here, and they could be various widths. I just can't deal with that. Can't deal with it. I want mine pre-cut. I don't want to try and find scraps that fit the length that I need when I need them. So this is what I did. So what I have in the instructions is what size length strips to cut if you want an extra 1/2 inch length, which gives you an extra 1/4 inch on either side. It's going to require a little more trimming, but you end up with a much more accurate block when you're done, especially if you're a less experienced quilter that's working on their 1/4 inch seam. Or sometimes you're an experienced quilter and you have fun with that 1/4 inch seam. It just is what it is. So I've given you 2 methods. I'm going with 1.75-inch width of the strip no matter what. You can decide whether you're gonna add a 1/2 inch to the length, or there's another template that says if you wanna go with the exact length strips you need, cut them this way. The template also lays it out, oops, hang on, let me grab this, like this. That shows you exactly the order the strips are gonna go in also, because, well, that's not fully intuitive either. So with that said, basically, you start with your center, you work around the outside like this. I'm gonna show you how to do that. Then you get your Creative Grid's trim tool ruler, your 6-inch, and you trim it. Then you go to the second set and do the same thing and trim it, the third set and trim it. My method does have a little extra trimming steps in the middle, and you will see that. So I'm going to walk you through all of that. There we go. The first thing you need to do is get your center square, which is a 2-inch square. That is mandatory. Don't mess with that size in the least, or none of this is going to work. Okay? Then you're going to take your first light color, which is 2¼ inches. And actually, I realized if we were adding a 1/2 inch, that would have been 2½. I will update the things, but 2¼ works. You don't need a lot of extra around the edges, and I think you can handle this very first seam with only a 1/4 inch extra. Okay, you're going to put your square on top of that, and you're going to sew it. Got it? Okay, then press. That's the other thing here. As you sew each strip on, make sure you press. Don't just finger press, press. And you're going to want to press everything to the outside. Press everything away from the center. So now we have our first light on our top one. And as you can see, we've got stuff hanging over the edge. Can you see that there? Yeah. So it's like, okay, this is where a little more trimming comes in, okay? Now for this first piece, if you wanted to start with a 2-inch, that works. Basically you're gonna take this other strip and put it here. Well, in order to line things up, you got this extra hanging out here, so it's not gonna line up straight. So what I do is I take that. Here's your straight edge and your corner. This is your 90-degree angle. So use that and then trim up this top section. Now you have a completely straight edge. Okay, so I put the light on the top of the green. So we're gonna turn this to the left counterclockwise. And now we're gonna put the next piece of fabric on the top. So what I do is I take my next strip, a light, and I put it on top of it, and then I flip it over. So I want my seams up. So then line everything up, and it doesn't matter how much you have hanging over on each side. It's giving you that wiggle room that we can trim up then. Whether it's your pressing that might be off or whatever. Okay. So I'm gonna pin that, and then I'm gonna stitch that. I brought that back to my cutting table. The red that I put on, the light colors at the top, there's about 1/4 inch hanging off over here on my edge. So I like to trim that up because otherwise I really can't have a straight edge to put the dark piece on there. So once again, this is my straight 90-degree angle that I can use to ensure when I trim this that I'm trimming it straight. Okay, so now we have that. Turn it to the left. Get your first dark fabric, which is 3½ inches, put it on top of it, flip it over. I just like to center it. Just is what it is, and we're gonna sew 1/4 inch on there. Once again, the last fabric I put on is on the top. And if you'll see, everything's pressing outward. Okay? Now, I actually have 2 wonky pieces of my fabric out on the edge that's past my primary square that I know is square. So I want to trim up both of those. So I'm going to use my green center square, and your seams should also be straight. So keeping your last fabric that you sewed on the top, center along your center block. You can use your seams as a line up as well, and trim those to get you a nice clean line for the next dark. So rotate to your left, get your dark, put it on top of it, and center it, and sew your 1/4 inch seam. So I have my second black strip on. It's at the top. Now we're ready to use the 6-inch log cabin trim tool. We don't need to trim up any edges with our regular ruler at this time because the trim tool is going to take care of it. Now, on your trim tool, you will find boxes. And there's so many lines on here that you don't necessarily see them. There's a square box here that says round 1. And then there's a white box that says round 2 and another black box that says round 3. Those boxes on your ruler go around your center square. And basically it tells you put this square in the middle for your first round of fabrics. Then when we get to the second round of fabrics, you're going to put round 2 in the middle, and so on, and you're going to see. Now, don't do what I did as I was testing this and confirming everything was good, and just get on a roll and just keep going like this, and then go, why are my strips not long enough for what I need? It's like, oh, because I was supposed to square up with my ruler before moving on. So each time you get a row of pairs of your 2 lights and 2 darks, it's time to get out the ruler. So we're going to just put round 1 box around my green center. Now, there's dotted lines that indicate basically where your seam should be. So a dotted line there is that seam. The solid line actually here in this point is that seam. So we're going to take this and we're going to trim it. Okay, then we turn it the other way around so my jagged edges are on the top and the right side. We put the trim tool ruler back on top of it, get my center in the round 1 box, get my seams looking good in case they're a little cattywampus, kittywampus, whatever you want to call it, and we trim. Okay, there we go. We are now, I'm turning it, so my first light colored is at the top because I'm going to put the next light color on the top right there. And that's where the diagram that's in the PDF that you can request shows you the layout on the darks and the lights, because it's key that you continue to center and have this right for this to work and to have it laid out the way you want. There's also in the middle of this, in the upper left corner of the ruler, there's little diagrams of your log cabin. You can use it for courthouse steps and half log cabin. So I'm covering the log cabin in this video. So now I'm ready to get my next set of fabric out. So we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take my 4-inch strip, I'm gonna lay it across the top, I'm gonna flip it, and I'm going to sew that on. I have the red, the light fabric that I put on. I'm keeping it at the top. I want to trim off this 1/4 inch length. Get my ruler. Make sure, and over here, this black, the dark, and the light here are all solid straight edges. And then I would also kind of line it up with your seams a little and make sure your center is all around that. Trim off that. Leave it there right now, it's trimmed. Turn it to the left, grab your next light fabric, put it on the top. I flip it, I pin it, and I sew a 1/4 inch. My second light color on my second round is ready. We've got a 1/4 inch hanging off there. This is a good solid straight edge, so we're gonna use that as well as keeping things in that center square centered. And making sure I don't twist my ruler. And we're going to trim it. Turn it to the left. Grab the 5 1/4 inch strip. If you've added the 1/2 inch to it, I flip it. I'm going to sew it 1/4 inch. I have my first strip of dark on, and now we've got fabric hanging off here and hanging off on here. So I'm going to use my center and this straight line to trim it. And yep, last time I'm going to be able to use this little ruler. Okay. There we have it. We turn it to the left, grab our last piece of dark in our second set, which is 6 1/2 inches long, and we center that and sew that on. We have now finished round 2. So we've got our 2 lights, our 2 darks. We're ready for the trim tool ruler again. This time you're going to find the box round 2 on your trim tool and put that in the middle around your center square using the other lines, which will make sense to you when you see it, around your seams to make sure everything is staying straight. This one over here should be the edge of that, and trim. Then you're going to flip it so that this side and this side are your extra wide strips, which need trimming. You put your round 2 box in the middle, kind of line up your seams, make sure everything looks good, and trim. Okay, then I always come back and I turn it so that first light strip that I did is at the top. The center with the smallest light strip is at the top. This centers the block and ready for you to do the next round of fabric. So now, grab my, whoops, I lost it, falling apart. My next strip of fabric is my 6-inch light. I put it here and I flip it. Oh, I must have cut it wrong. That's like way more than 6 inches. Anyway, it really doesn't matter. If you end up with strips that are longer than you need, you're fine. The key thing with my measurements here as far as what you need is based on you having increased the width of the fabric to 1.75. That's the key thing. So if you want to do lengths of fabric that are exact, or an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch more instead of a 1/2 inch more, that's fine. But it's all based on you having a 1.75 inch width. If you start changing that width, actually if you go lower and do exactly 1.5, you'll be fine, I do believe. But if you do anything more like a 2-inch, it's gonna screw the numbers completely. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. And please note, I am repeating the same thing that we're doing for each round of the pair of light and the pair of dark fabrics. In the bottom here, there are links, depending on your phone or your computer, that you can kind of see the chapters. So if you get it and you're like, I don't need to listen to you again, go ahead and jump to where I'm trimming this up. So, but I'm gonna continue walking through each piece of fabric one at a time. Light strip is on. I got lots of left over because I measured wrong. And now I had to dig out a bigger ruler because my 6-inch square wasn't getting it done. So I'm using my 6x12 ruler. Once again, I have a solid straight line there, keeping my center so I can trim off that little edge there. And then looking at it, I think I had my numbers wrong at the beginning, so I will correct those in the document. You should only need a 6.75 inch piece of fabric for this And I know this is more. I went with a 7. So once again, here, flip it left, right sides together. I flip it so I like to have my seams up. And we're going to pin and sew our 1/4 inch here. I have my second light on my 3rd round. We got to trim off this little pesky thing over here. Get out my longer ruler, line up my straight edge, and whack that off. Turn it to the left, get out my next piece of fabric. Oh, I think we got this cut the right size. And put it on there, flip it. Oh, I so love matching black on black. Do you? So I'm gonna get that there and we're gonna sew that. First dark is on. We need to trim off here and here, so we're gonna use this as our straight line, making sure seams and everything else are straight, and particularly around our center block, because that is the basis for everything. Get those out of there, turn it to the left, get my last dark, put it on top, flip it over, and I'm now ready to pin and sew the last seam before we do the last trim up with the trim tool. The last dark is on. So the block is done except for trimming. So you grab your trim tool, keep it like this. There is a round 3 box and it is black. I love doing that on blacks. Okay, so we got that in the center. Get my seams over here kind of matching up. My seams are a little funky here. Oh, sometimes I do a little tug with them if I need to. You know, if yours are really off in here, you might want to go back and go, do I need to re-stitch that last seam? And so otherwise mine looks good. So I'm going to trim it. Oops. A little hanger. Flip it around. So you've got your 2 edges that have the widest fabric. That's the part that needs to be trimmed. Put your round 3 block in the middle, and at this point your side and your bottom should be even with this ruler. This is what's going to ensure that you get your 6. This should be 6.5 inches. Okay, things look good. Trim, and I'm going to trim. There we go. I now have my perfect log cabin block that is 6.5 inch square, unfinished, using the 6-inch log cabin trim tool. And your template that you can download is going to give you so much helpful information. Just remember those numbers are based on a 1.75 inch width. And then something to note, grab this. If you happen to have the log cabin trim tool 2, be aware the 6-inch trim tool is in the lower left corner of it. It's not quite as intuitive in the fact that it doesn't say round 1, round 2, round 3. In fact, no. Yeah, I would. Round 2. Yeah, sorry. I think this 6-inch one would be, sorry, I'm looking at this trying to figure out if the 6-inch actually is as intuitive with, okay, if you did the 6-inch in the lower right corner, the lower left corner of the 12-inch ruler and flipped it around, it does appear you've got a white block round 1, a dark block, round 2, round 3, round 1. There, round 1, round 2 is your white, and round 3. It's just not as intuitive, and it's not labeled as easily as your 6-inch block. So this would take me a little more time looking at it and getting used to, where I'll admit if I was gonna do a 6-inch, I'm really glad I have a 6-inch ruler because it says round 1, round 2, round 3. So with that said, maybe next time I'll try and figure out how to use this ruler for the courthouse steps. So there you have it. Now you can figure out how to use that ruler that you bought that you're going, what the? And after that, I've had quite the day of getting this all figured out. I have my measurements right, so it's wine time. Take care and have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. I very much appreciate it. If you want to make sure you don't miss a single video I published, hit the subscribe button below and then hit the bell icon. And that way you will be notified whenever I publish a new video. But you can also find me over on Facebook. Facebook.com/Wendy, the initial J, Haney. Or I have a Facebook group for those of you that love quilting, needlework, books, wine, and wellness. You can find that at facebook.com/groups/lifefulfilled. The name of the group is Life Fulfilled - Quilting, Needlework, Books, Wine, and Wellness. You can also find me over on my website, wendyjhaney.com. I will be doing more blogging over there eventually. As I get more of my videos done, I'll be blogging about those. But also, maybe you see some things that I'm making here and you're going, ooh, wow, I just don't want to make that myself. Well, a lot of those products will end up over there on the website that you can purchase for your friends and family. Once again, thank you so much for your support, and I appreciate you watching.